what's up guys, I thought I would do a video today, well it is the 12th December today. I thought I would do a video today talking about my beliefs in the paranormal. So to be honest with you, I have been a big believer in the paranormal for many years. And I know a lot of people will say that, that it's kind of stupid to believe in something that isn't real. I think you'll only say that if you've had an experience that you can't, if you've not had an experience that you weren't able to explain. I think that's what's caused me to become such a believer as that is that I have experienced things or had experiences that I wasn't necessarily able to explain. I remember not last Christmas before, but just before that Christmas 2022, well December 2022. Me and my mum went out one Saturday night, just kind of moving around over sort of sleep. We went out one Saturday night. We went to watch the new Matilda film, which had just come out in the cinema at the time. And we put about a week earlier, we put some Christmas lights up in the kitchen window. And they are manual Christmas lights, they don't come on automatically, like, they're not motion censored lights or anything like that. They can only be turned on if somebody manually turned them on. So we went out this particular night. This particular afternoon, we hadn't bothered to turn the Christmas lights on in the kitchen window because it was still daytime. We decided to leave them off until turned off until we got back. When we got back, about an hour, a couple of hours later, we were left shocked because the Christmas lights in the kitchen window, had been turned on. Obviously, my sister was back in the room with her for a bit at the time, but she was out that day, so there wasn't anybody in the house to be able to actually turn the Christmas lights on. And as I said, they weren't lights that came on automatically, nor were they motion censored lights. So there was no reason for them to have been turned to come on by themselves, but they had we got back here and the Christmas lights in the kitchen window were on. Now obviously me and my mum were both looking at each other like we were so confused by this because there was nobody in the house. There had been nobody in the house to be able to actually turn the Christmas lights on. Like, everyone was out of the house, so how had they been turned on when no one was in the house? It was in the house, it's like, it something that didn't make sense. There's just so many weird things, I would say, that, we have experienced. We've experienced a lot of weird things living here. If you've seen, shadows, we felt something touching us, all sorts of weird things. Even adults. Well, one of them, Ruby, sometimes she'll sit up on my mum's bed and she'll start barking and something isn't even there. And it's like, it's very weird. I mean, I know they say that adults can actually see things that we can't, which I actually think is kind of creepy. The adults and cats can kind of see things that we as humans are not able to see. Their eyes and see something that is not able to be seen by the human eye. Like, it's really weird, kind of creepy. I think there's always, I'd love to there is that one thing I'd love to do. And I guess it would be to do like a proper ghost hunt with proper ghost hunting equipment. Obviously, I'm aware that the proper ghost hunting equipment does cost a fair amount, but I'd love to be able to do that. I think, this kind of ghost hunting stuff is something that I've really kind of been inspired to do. Like, I've watched a lot of ghost hunting YouTube channels where they go and they investigate and explore different haunted locations. And those YouTube channels, watching these people do that, watching these people doing these ghost hunts and all that kind of thing has really inspired me to want to do that myself. Really inspired me to want to go to different haunted places, and just spend some time there just to see what sort of evidence we could get. whether that would be audio evidence or visual evidence of the paranormal, it would be really interesting. I used to also watch a program on, it used to be on Really, which was, if you had Freeview, that was Channel 17. It was called Ghost Adventures, and I know a lot of people that, when I mention the word Ghost Adventures, there will be a lot of people who are very familiar with that program, because I think it's always been quite a popular program. For me, I enjoyed it back in the early days when it was Zach Bagans, Aaron Goodwin, and Nick Roth. I felt like Ghost Adventures wasn't the same after Nick Roth left. It wasn't. It didn't quite feel the same for me. I think in the earlier days, Ghost Adventures was really good. I really enjoyed some of the episodes of that. Obviously, I myself would love to kind of go, just spend some time in one of these haunted locations, just to sort of see if I would be able to actually capture anything. The only problem is here, though, is that in this part of London, the East End of London, there's not really, many places that are massively known to be haunted. The only place I can think of that really, or two places that I can think of is the Bow Belts pub in Bow. They say that that's haunted by a phantom toilet flusher. Make of that as you will. Obviously, I don't know if those stories are actually true, but they do say that Bow Bells pub is haunted by a phantom toilet flusher. Then there's the old Raggedy Stall, the Raggedy Stall Museum in Hopperfield Road. They say that's haunted as well. Obviously, I guess obviously it's easier to do these ghost hunts when you kind of have the proper equipment to sort of be able to do that. Obviously you need a decent camera to be able to do that. You'd need decent voice recording equipment, spirit box here, a decent spirit box. Motion detectors as well, you'd need them. So there's a lot of different equipment that you would need for a ghost hunt, and it obviously would add up to a lot of money. But yeah, as I said, I think, watching these people doing these ghost hunts, sort of inspired me to want to do that myself. I've always said I wouldn't mind spending spending a night kind of locked down in one of the London Underground stations that are known to be haunted, because there are surprisingly a lot of London Underground stations that over the years have been reported to be haunted in various different ways by various different ghosts. There's even certain sections of track that are known to be haunted. Obviously there's a section of track on the Northern Line between Oval and Stockwell. There's an opening there called South Island Place, and that's known to be haunted by a ghost of a man who was actually hit by a train killed in that area many years ago. He was working on with heavy machinery, with loud machinery, and he was using ear protectors. And because he was wearing his ear protectors, he couldn't hear an oncoming train, and the train basically hit him and killed him in that area. And since then, his ghost has been seen. And there is a story of a station that was asked to do a track walk. And they were doing a track walk between Oval and Stockwell, and as they came past South Island Place, they saw a gentleman working there, and he had an old oil tin lamp. And this station worker had gotten into a conversation with this gentleman. He was saying about how he thought the old tin lamps had gone out of fashion years prior. And the gentleman was telling him that he preferred to use those tilly lamps, like the old oil tilly lamps, and they'd carried on having this conversation, and the station worker had sort of carried on to Stockwell Station, where he met the night controller, and the night controller said to him, "Oh, you know, what took you so long?" And the station worker had said to him that, he said to him, "Oh, I was having a conversation with a gentleman who's working down at South Island Place." And the light controller said to him, "But you hardly been talking to anyone down there tonight." And the station worker said, "But I did." And then the station, like the light controller was saying to him, "But I haven't got anyone scheduled to actually be working down there tonight." Which is why, you know, he was saying that, you know, the station hadn't been talking to anyone down there that night, to anyone down there, because he had no one scheduled to be working down there that night. You know, there was no kind of information that said that anyone, which stated that anyone was actually scheduled to be working down there that night. So obviously they both went back down to this section of the track where the station worker had seen this held like this gentleman. But when they got back there, no one was there. Obviously, this gentleman had vanished into thin air. So it's a very weird story, that one. And there's a lot of weird stories I've heard about with the London Underground. There's the one at Liverpool Street with the man in white overalls. I have mentioned that story before. In a video I've done on my channel about the ghosts of the London Underground. That was one of the stories I mentioned about a man in white overalls being seen on the CCTV cameras, but the station supervisor who was on duty that night wasn't actually able to see anything. But the CCTV monitor, like the guy that was monitoring the CCTV cameras, when he was looking at the CCTV cameras, he was able to see this person in white, this man in white overalls. Obviously, which is quite an intriguing story. And one that is quite fascinating. I've always said that I'd like to be locked down at Elephant and Castle Tube Station, because Elephant and Castle Tube Station for many years now has been described as being quite haunted. Now, I don't know whether, I thought that they say that footsteps have been heard, doors have been heard rattling, they say footsteps have been heard running up and down the platforms and things like that. So yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of activity that's been reported there. There's also reports of a young woman be seen boarding the Bakerloo line train at around 6 p.m. in the evening, but he's never seen actually getting off the train. Now, there's one story that I think has always intrigued me and interested me, and it's the reports of a phantom train sighting at South Kensington Station. Now, this first sighting was documented back in 1928. So a person got off the train, was reported to have gotten off the train at South Kensington Station. Their train left the platform and disappeared into the tunnel, and a few moments later, that passenger heard another whistle and another train came into the platform and came into the station. However, they said that there was something unusual about that train, and what was unusual about it was that there was a man hanging from the side of the train. So they said that after a couple of minutes, the train disappeared into the tunnel, and to this day, has never been seen again. However, I say to this day, but back in 2013, so around 80 odd years after around 85 years after the original sighting back in 1928, another passenger actually was supposed to have reported a similar experience to the one that was actually reported originally back in 1928. So, I mean, obviously I don't know how true the story of the phantom train at South Kensington is. I'm not saying that I don't believe the stories about it, but I'm just saying that there's not, with regards to this reported phantom train sighting, there's just not really a lot of information to go on. You know, there's not a lot, all we have is a report from a person back in 1928 that reported seeing a phantom train and seeing a weird train come into the station with a man hanging from the side of it. Now, what was interesting was that when people actually, there were some like experts that sort of looked into this sighting, and they were able to kind of determine that the train that was reportedly seen that day had never ever existed. So this is what kind of makes me a little bit doubtful of it, is like, why would someone be seeing a train that had never ever existed? Like that's one of those things that doesn't make sense about it. You know, it's the fact that that this was a train that was found to have never ever existed. So how can someone be seeing a train that has never existed? You know, it doesn't make sense. I remember one night, there's a park just down the road from where we live. And one night, this was like years ago, my mum was walking past there one night. It was around 10 o'clock at night, and she was walking past there, and she said there was no wind in the air or anything like that. But she said that she was walking past there, she could hear the sounds of what she hear what sounded like children laughing and playing in the park. And she could see the swings kind of moving backwards and forward, like swinging backwards and forwards by themselves. She said there was no wind that night. There was no reason for it. You know, she has said many times that there was no reason for the swings to be swinging backwards and forwards on their own as they were. It's just kind of creepy. Imagine walking past a park at like 10 o'clock at night, and you're hearing the sounds of like children playing, and you're seeing the swings spinning backwards and forwards by themselves with no explanation for that. Like that is extremely creepy. I mean, I've never really experienced anything that I would say was paranormal apart from when I was in my old school. So when I was in secondary school, my second secondary school that I went to, Cavendish, which is a school in South London. That building, the building that school was in, was reported to be haunted. Now, I didn't believe any of the stories. There was, one of my teachers reported, had an experience with a black hat. So what it was, she was in one of the tutor rooms one night, and the tutor room that she was in had a door that kind of led out onto the fire escape. Now, she had this door open to, let some fresh air in. She was sitting in the tutor room finishing off some paperwork and stuff before she got ready to go home. And she said that she was sort of sat kind of away from the desk, but she said that out of the corner of her eye, in her peripheral vision, she was seeing a black hat out on the fire escape. But she said that every time she turned to look directly at the fire escape, there was nothing there. But she said that every time she sort of looked away and was not looking at the fire escape, out of the corner of her eye, she could actually see this black hat on the fire escape. But as I said, every time she turned to look at the fire escape, there was no black hat there. There was one day when I was in the art room, and it was coming towards the end of the lesson. And we had two female members of staff in there. So we had a female teaching assistant and the female teacher. So the teacher had asked me to go over to the sink to clean up all of the pots and paintbrushes that we've been using for the lesson. As the bell was getting ready to go, and obviously it'd be time for the next lesson. So I was like, okay, I'll go over and do that. So I went over to the sink, and whilst I was stood at the sink, I heard, it was a little bit quiet, but I heard, a woman's voice. And it caught my attention, it made me react, it kind of made me turn around. And I was like, what the, I don't think I swore, but I remember saying, what the hell? And the teachers, the teacher and the teaching assistant, they were both looking at me and like, are you okay? And I was like, did it? And I actually said to them, I remember saying to them, did either of you two just speak then? And they both sort of said to me, no, why? And I was like, I just sworn I heard a woman's voice saying. It was very quiet, but I just sworn I heard it. You know, there was another day when I was in that corridor, all of the doors were closed. So there was no way I would have been hearing anything coming from like outside of the building. But I heard this cat meow. And it was really weird. As I said, like, all of the doors were closed for the classrooms. So, and there was like no open windows in nearby. So, there shouldn't really been any way for me to have been hearing something that was coming from outside the building. It was just really weird. Like, really, it was just, I mean, obviously, my mum did strike blackout once. She was, as I was like in late, a bit of our school, where our school was, it backed onto Suffolk Park. And my mum was in there one day, she was walking around past the lake, and there was a black cat there, and she was stroking it. Now, I'm not saying this was the same black cat that my teacher had supposedly seen, but, and I'm not, I don't know if there is any connection there. But she also saw a black cat actually saw a black cat on the fence. Another day she was in the park and she actually saw a black cat on the fence near the school. So maybe, I don't know what to believe with regards to this black cat, because obviously my teacher, my teacher Pat, she was who saw, was the one who was the teacher that had supposedly seen this black cat. She was always adamant that, about what she was seeing that night. She was so, she was always so adamant that, she'd been sitting there and she kept seeing this black cat out on the fire escape. And to be honest, I never felt like she was lying about that. I always thought she was, it always seemed genuine. Like, she said that it was really weird. Like, she kept, like out the corner of her eye, she kept seeing this black cat. She said that every time she turned to sort of look directly at the fire escape, there was no black cat there. But every time she sort of she was looking away from the fire escape out the corner of her eye in her peripheral vision, she could actually see this black cat. And it was very, very weird. Very weird. But other than that, I mean, we never really experienced anything weird in the school. There was one day where we was in the school's meeting room, and a picture that was up on the wall for some reason fell down off the wall. Pat actually mentioned that happened before when she was in that same room with another family, like with some other parents. A picture had actually fallen down off the wall. No, it wasn't. We was in the meeting room and my mum said, we were mucking about. And my mum was saying that, my mum said if there's anybody, like, it was sort of spiritually, she was like, if there's anybody here, give me a sign. And then all of a sudden we hear this loud bang. And we were like, we were joking about it. And my teacher said that the same teacher, actually, Pat, she mentioned that she'd been in that same room with some parents not too long before. And a picture was falling off the wall. So there you go. A bit of a weird activity in that school there, to be honest. There was one day when I'd gone upstairs to the English, because what happened was, I left my bag in the English room. And, I left my bag and my coat in the English room. And when I got downstairs, I realised I'd left my bag and coat up there. I think it was because I was in, like, such a rush to get downstairs, for lunch, that I left my bag and my coat in the English room. So I went back upstairs to get it, and I came out of the English room and I was walking towards the staircase, and as I was walking down the corridor towards where the stairs were, where the staircase was, I got this feeling like there was someone stood behind me watching me. And I sort of turned around thinking that there was somebody behind me, but there was no one there. For some reason I couldn't shake off this feeling that there was somebody standing behind me watching me, even though I knew there wasn't. Even though I knew that there wasn't anybody there. I just for some reason could not shake off that feeling that there was someone standing behind me watching me. I kept kind of peering over, sort of turning around or kind of looking over my shoulder, expecting to see somebody behind me, but there wasn't, and I was thinking, what the heck is going on? It didn't kind of disappear until I got back downstairs. That was when that feeling kind of faded away and it wasn't there anymore. And I just thought it was like so weird. And I remember my teacher said to me, "Oh, you look like you've seen a ghost." And I remember thinking, like, I've not seen one, but I think I've experienced like something really weird. And I told them about what I just experienced, and they were like, "Oh, that's weird." But yeah, I mean, obviously, we've had so many weird experiences when it comes, and like, I've had a few weird encounters. Like, I've never actually seen a full-on ghost. You know, I don't know, to be honest, I've often thought about it, and I think to myself, like, I don't know how I would react if I did see a ghost. You know, I know I act like I probably wouldn't be scared, but I think it would just be really, I think, I would find it really interesting and really fascinating. Like, I have watched a lot of ghost videos on YouTube and it came to see ghosts and things like that, but it's hard to tell whether those videos, a lot of the time it is hard to kind of tell whether a lot of these ghost videos are actually seen on the internet are real or fake. Like, most of the time they do feel fake, they do feel like they've been very heavily edited, but sometimes maybe they're not, sometimes maybe they are genuine. But, it's hard to decipher that. I think, I mean, I say it's not really paranormal place, but we've had a weird experiences with, like, a mimic, I guess you could say. Like, there's been many instances where I've heard my mum's voice, but she's been in bed asleep. There was one time where she heard my voice, but I wasn't even in the house at the time, I was at work. But she heard my voice coming from up here in my room, here, like from in here. But I wasn't even here at the time. I was out of the house. I was at work, and she was hearing my voice. So how was she hearing my voice when I wasn't in the room and when I wasn't even in the house at the time? And it's like, how was I hearing her voice when she was in bed fast asleep? I swear it happened again the other day as well. Like, it was just before my dad got here. And the dogs started going mad, and I thought, oh, my mum must be coming in. Because that's like normally when the dogs start to go mad, it's like when my mum comes back. And I swear to God, I did actually hear what I was. It sounded like her voice. But she hadn't actually gotten back yet, but it sounded like her voice. My mum's even heard my dad's voice I remember that she was walking along the land outside landing one day. And she could hear my dad's voice coming from the house, but when she opened the front door and came in, he wasn't even in the house. But she was hearing, when she was walking along the landing, she could hear his voice. It was really weird. And again, as I said, the other day, I thought I could hear her voice, but my mum wasn't even back yet, so I was like, what the heck is going on there? And obviously we've had there's been so many incidents now where I thought I heard her voice, but she was in bed sleeping, so it was like I couldn't have heard her voice, but I was hearing it. And as I said, she's heard my voice, and I was out of the house, like when I was out of the house at work, I wasn't even in the house at the time, yet she was hearing my voice. So I was like, how could she have been hearing my voice when I wasn't even in the house at the time? Like, it doesn't make sense, the fact that she was hearing my voice when I wasn't even in the house. And it doesn't make sense, the fact that I was hearing her voice when she was in bed fast asleep. So I shouldn't have been hearing her voice, but I was. She shouldn't have been hearing my voice as I was out of work. But she was hearing my voice. But it definitely wasn't me, and I definitely wasn't in the house that day. As even she confirmed that I wasn't in the house. She's told me about this before. And she said to me that when she came up here and actually checked my bedroom, I wasn't even in the house. Because that's the thing, like, when she heard my voice, it made her come upstairs and actually check. She thought I'd come in. But then when she thought about it, she was thinking that there was no way I could have gotten into the house because I had no key at the time to be able to actually unlock the door myself and come in. So there was no way I could have gotten into the house, and it wasn't me anyway, because I was still at work. So it definitely wasn't me that she was hearing. So it's just really weird, to think that she's heard that I've heard her voice at times when she's been in bed fast asleep, and she's heard my voice at a time when I wasn't even in the house. So it's something I've always thought was quite fascinating, but also it's kind of weird. It's somewhat intriguing, but also weird at the same time. Like, it was that kind of weird, sort of fruity, somewhat creepy as well, to think that these things are kind of like we've experienced these things. I mean, obviously, I think me and my mum are both big believers in the paranormal, to be honest. I mean, as I said, I'd love to do a ghost hunt. If I had the proper ghost hunting equipment, I would do that. I would probably start my own series on YouTube as well, if I had the proper equipment to be able to actually do that. Because I'd love to actually go to some of these places, do a ghost hunt and actually record some stuff I'd like to record stuff for proof that I'd like to be able to prove that I wasn't faking anything. It has to be said. So I thought I would share those thoughts with you guys. I mean, I've also said, but before I end it, I've also said I would love to spend a night on my own at Disneyland, not just locked down doing a ghost hunt in there. Because obviously they said Disneyland is very haunted. It's quite a haunted place. So I'd love to kind of do some investigations there, just to sort of see what kind of activity we would pick up there, because they've often described like Disneyland / Disney World as being very kind of active places when it comes to the paranormal, especially at night. I think the one story that's always fascinated me is the ghost of the boy that's been seen running along the monorail track. And there was obviously that story about a young guy named Thomas Guy Cleveland, who was trying to sneak into the park on Red Night, and he jumped down onto the monorail track, and he was actually running along the monorail track, and the security guard spotted him, and they started trying to warn him of an oncoming train. But he either didn't hear them or chose to ignore them, and he carried on running along the monorail track, and he saw the monorail train coming towards him, and he jumped down into a pit underneath the track, but he wasn't low down enough, and the train came and hit him in the head and dragged his body around. I think it was around 40 yards down the track. And since then, there's been a lot of paranormal activity recorded. People have reported seeing an apparition running along the monorail track late at night, and then vanishing in the spot where Thomas Guy Cleveland was actually killed. There's also been reported that people that are like security guards and park guests have reported around 10 o'clock at night have reported seeing someone a figure stood on the monorail track that will vanish, that will vanish into thin air. There's also the security guards said that they've had so many calls from monorail train drivers who have actually reported a trespasser on the tracks. When they go to the monorail tracks to investigate, they're not able to find anyone. So yeah, a lot of weird experiences there. Obviously, that they've had the ghost of sneezing. The death of Deborah Galstone, the employee who died after being crashed between a stationary wheel and a rotating wheel on the Sims attraction. Only years after that incident, people reported hearing her go saying, "Be careful." They also reported that chairs that were down in the walkway, they would be folded up, open doors would be closed by themselves, objects that were in the way would be moved. It was as if Deborah was in the afterlife, was looking out for her fellow employees and making sure that they didn't end up meeting the same fate that she did. Obviously, there's also been reports of the Haunted Mansion being haunted, with various ghost stories involving Walt Disney. So yeah, Disneyland is one of those places I would love to investigate, especially when it comes to the paranormal. But that's just my views on that's as far as this video goes. So I hope you enjoyed this video, hope you find it interesting, and I'll see you for another one soon. Bye bye.